There we go. Can everybody still hear me? Good. So you're walking outside, having a it's a beautiful day, you feel great, and you start looking at the details of that day. Every one of those details makes the day even greater. It doesn't take away from the wonderful day, it adds to the wonderful day. Every detail does that. Why is that? And how does that relate to pure consciousness? How does that relate to self-awareness? Well, self-awareness like that all by itself is unbounded, has no qualities other than you having the experience and then having the experience. And that experience is there's something there, but it's abstract. Now, very fortunately for all of us, this self-awareness, unlike is often thought of, this self-awareness is often thought of as being empty. It has never been like that for me. It didn't matter how far back I go, I always saw something. I at least knew I was having the experience. If I was having the experience, then that is something. It's my experience. Now, in the same way, on a beautiful day, you start looking at this, that, the other thing. If you start looking at your own consciousness, everybody has this intrinsic, basic, unbounded consciousness, which is not aware of it. Normal life, physical life, for most people, everything you see, taste, and touch obscures that pure consciousness, puts it in the background. You don't see it. It's as if gone. Of course, it can't really be gone. You wouldn't be alive without self-awareness. That's very fortunate because since self-awareness is such an intrinsic and simple part of your life, it's just there all the time, usually in the background, usually hidden. And of course, there's procedures for contacting that self-awareness. There's procedures, meditation, prayer, and I'd like to add self-inquiry to it too, because the experience of pure consciousness, experience of the basic value of your own consciousness takes something more than just kind of abstract knowingness. It takes acknowledgement or understanding, deep understanding. You got to get it. You have to get it. Getting it is an understanding. So here you're having pure consciousness, unboundedness, or what would you like to call it? Self-awareness. If you have the experience, but you don't acknowledge it or understand it, it's almost like not having it at all. It's like having an enormous amount of money in the bank, but you don't have the key to the safe. You can't open it. You kind of know you have it, but you can't use it. Self-awareness is like that. Pure consciousness is like that. Its very simplicity, its very naturalness makes the experience of self-awareness and makes the experience of self-realization. That's when it would be self-awareness is permanent, always there, 24 hours a day, always there. Its simplicity and naturalness makes it easy to ignore, not something to write home about. I can't emphasize enough that what I'm talking about, or this self-awareness, this self-realization, it's not an empty state. It's not, you don't go through life and you're getting emptier and then someday you're going to experience this great, huge, unbounded emptiness. That's certainly not been my experience. Quite on the contrary, I would say that my experience has been, let's say, we'll talk a little bit about my own experience. Much younger, I started having experiences inside. I didn't know what they were. This way way before I did any techniques or anything else as a kid, teenager, or even before. I had this feeling that there was something there. There's something more to life because I'd get flashes of this happiness or bliss or something, and I'd see something. I'd see this field, this self-awareness. It was there. I didn't know what it was. I even asked myself, could this be God? And I said, no way, it can't be God. It's too abstract. You know, no form, nothing. So I decided it's not God. But I did ask myself, what is it? What is this? Is it something apart from me? Is it something apart from my normal life? Is it something apart from my friends and relatives? Is it apart from my environment? But what I started seeing when I looked at my own self awareness, my own consciousness inside, I started seeing. I wasn't even going to go here, but I'm going to go there anyway. There were qualities to self awareness. And those qualities were the benefits of that self awareness. They were the benefits of the experience of this inside experience, this inside knowingness that you're experiencing something unbounded, something big, something beyond your normal, what you would call normal everyday life. Something was bigger, better, fuller. Something tied it all together. Something was there that tied the little things together, doing this, going for a walk, washing the dishes, eating food. Something tied that all together. When self-awareness becomes more permanent and known, more understood, acknowledged, and say, oh, what's this? And you see it, taste it, touch it. And it's as if all the other parts of your life stop being other parts of your life. They start being your life, the knower's life, the experiencer's life. And I have to say that this unification of your outside experience to your inside experience is extremely fulfilling. Of course it is. You're not separating from anything, you're joining it all as in effect. Everything remains exactly the way it's always been and totally different as well, totally connected to your own consciousness. When my self-awareness became more permanent, there came a time when I said, wait a minute, this stuff's always there. This pure consciousness is always there. So there at night, during the day. And I started living this state that was almost a one-day life. Yesterday seemed like today. You know what a kid is like? We were all kids at some point. And I have a grandchild, and she runs around like a chicken, and everything about her life is totally one-pointedly the moment. Everything is important. Look at my toenail. Look, it's a big toe. Everything is the end of the world. There's nothing important. Whatever's happening in a minute from now or whatever happened a minute ago is not important to a child. They're living an innocent, almost perfect life. They're being looked after, of course. They have parents and grandparents who look after them, but nevertheless, that's what enlightenment is like. You're getting looked after. What are you getting looked after by? You're getting looked after by self-awareness, your own awareness that's expanded and is starting to be a basket for your entire life. Like a mother and father looks after a child, your own awareness begins to look after you. I always had, I wasn't going to talk much about, I wasn't going to talk much about God because, that somebody say, oh, there's this religion and what's this guy in the sky or lady in the sky. But, there's a divine feeling that grows with self-awareness, a divinity or it's anything that's beautiful, you know. So what I started seeing in my own consciousness is that it was lovely. It was nice. I loved it. Every time I looked at it, I saw more. What did I see at first? First, I saw I am that. You know, I'm that. I started getting that I was the experience. Even as abstract it was, I got it to know I am that. I'm that experience. It's my experience. And that then, when that became permanent, then other things started to happen in my consciousness. Well, what are these other things? This field of consciousness became beautiful, just gorgeous. And how did it do that? Consciousness at first was very still. There was some happiness there or bliss there or some good quality, but very still, very unbounded, like an ocean without waves. Looked good, looked nice, like the ocean would look beautiful on a windless day, big, almost flat. But whenever I looked at this ocean of consciousness, it moved. It moved, and every time it moved, it was more beautiful because it moved specifically. What do I mean by that? I started seeing pure consciousness and hearing pure consciousness, this ocean that was waveless at first.
Speak louder.
Kathy keeps giving me notes, telling me to speak louder.
I get messages.
Can anybody not hear me?
Yes, somebody could not hear.
Okay, I will try to speak louder. But you know, you can emphasize stuff by speaking softly. Okay, so I'll speak a little louder. Where was I? Okay, I was talking about a waveless ocean, waveless ocean of consciousness, waveless ocean of self-awareness. It's not really waveless at all because as soon as you put your attention on it, it moves. What this ocean of stillness moves? Yeah, it moves. And it moves in a beautiful way. Very organized. Maybe you see something. Maybe you see the structure of that silence, the structure of that stillness. Yeah, it has a structure. But you got to look for it. This is a treasure you have to seek. That's where this word seeker comes from. You got to look for it. If you don't look for it, you're going to, just live your life. Have a good life, no problem. But if you go into the self, through meditation or prayer or even thinking about it, deep inquiry or sharing your experience with other people, and those people reflect back on you and tell you their experience, and you'll begin to see what your own consciousness is all about. The thing is, you aren't, I'm not, nobody is an isolated entity. We're not living in this world by ourselves, even on the grossest level. Our families are close to us, our friends are close to us, the society is close to us. And in bygone months, we used to be able to travel, the world was close to us. What we really want is to understand and experience that closeness as the self. This is my experience. How wonderful is it? Nobody wants to be separate. So the growth of self-awareness begins to unite the inside experience with the outside experience. What does that mean? It's an expansion of the consciousness. It's an expansion of awareness. It's an expansion of happiness. It's an expansion of good feelings. If we have problems, and everybody has problems, everybody has issues they have to get over, whatever those issues are. And these issues can come and they can go. Some are more persistent than others. They stick around, and others come and go. There's only one thing that I know of that deals with this change, these problems in life, these issues in life. And that's something that is fundamentally non-changing. And when you do know see its changing values, its waves, you see them as the self, the knower. So let's say this ocean of consciousness, it has high waves and low waves. So you got flashy experiences here, and you have depression or whatever down here. And then it goes halfway, and it goes up, and it goes down. Your consciousness is responsible for all of it, the downs and the ups and the everything. Now, your consciousness has an experiencer, a knower, and that knower goes right through this experience. It's the experience of up and the experience of down. And what I mean by understanding this experience is that you get to know that this experience just starts being more of the highs and more of the lows, more of the highs and more of the lows, higher and higher. And yes, you go lower and lower too, except that everything begins to be in terms of your own consciousness. So the qualities of the life that you don't like, the aspects of your life that you don't like, they get known in terms of the self too, this unbounded self. Do they disappear? Not necessarily, but they do become known for what they are. And of course, we're always going for the good experience. We want to be happier. We want to be this. We want to be that. Those are the qualities that you tend to get day one from pure consciousness to some degree. But over time, this pure consciousness begins to contain everything in your life. Not just the good stuff, the bad stuff too. Of course, it loses some of its bad qualities and becomes part of the knower, understanding I am everything that there is. I can't emphasize enough. There's so much talk about so many teachers. They talk about you going to the state, and it's silent and it's still, and you get there, and you get some good qualities out of it. Maybe you get a little bit of happiness or bliss, or you see something. But that to me is the beginning of the experience, and it's available to everybody. It's available because it's basically who you are. It's basically, if you put your focus on something, then that aspect, that focus will bring it to life. You can do it by meditation or whatever techniques. I've been meeting more and more people. I've been having meetings like this, but not public meetings. I've never had a public meeting before, and we'll see if I do more, but I think I will. But I've been having small personal meetings with people, and people have shared their experiences with me. And I used to ask myself, why am I doing this? I'm not really that outgoing. I like to sit in my room and do my art and write books and whatever, be alone. But when I started sharing my experiences, you're always doing everything because there's something in it for you, not just for who you're talking to or who you're communicating, but there's something in it for you. And this sharing experience was an eye-opener for me. And a number of people, quite a few people, started having transformational experiences. Not because I was doing anything, it's because we were all sharing our inner experiences. And this person was like, whoa, really? I have that. I've always had that. So what should I do? Look at it a little more, pay attention to it, acknowledge it. And not one person, not too many, many people. And these meetings started having these experiences, expanded consciousness or bliss or knowledge or knowingness. And almost everybody would say something like, but this isn't new. This isn't new. I've had this a long time. Well, you haven't really had it a long time. You've recognized now that it's so natural and simple that it could not have been there in the past. It must have been there in the past. That's what makes this seeking game, this self-awareness game, so alluring, is that you don't have to start from day one. You start from a point where most of the experience is already there. Now, how can I say that? Well, everybody on this meeting is a seeker of some nature, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, right? You know something, you've had some experience, you've had some tastes, and you say, I want more of those tastes. I want more of the good tastes. Those flashes of experience, those moments of experience that you have, they eventually become the norm. Those happy moments when you, oh, everything is great. I'm an eternal, infinite being. Boom, it was gone, but you knew it for a second. Now, one of the qualities of self-awareness and pure consciousness is that you get the sense that it's always been there and it's never going to end. That's what's never going to end. When you understand that this is your essential nature, you're an individual, I'm an individual, I'm having that experience. Will we eventually know that we are infinite and eternal? Well, that's what it feels like to me. Not only does it feel like it, that I'm infinite and eternal, I feel everybody's infinite and eternal. Now, that's saying a lot, but that's how I feel. That's what I experience. The basic quality of the self, the knower, the big self, the experiencer, is that has always been there, will always be there, and I'm a wave of that ocean, and I will always be a wave. Pure consciousness, the self, the ocean of consciousness, does not express anything that isn't itself. So you get to know, the wave gets to know that it's the whole ocean. What does it feel like to be the whole ocean? It feels very steady. As if nothing could influence you in a negative way. Nothing could end your oceanic stillness. even everything that you begin to see in that stillness of the ocean of your own consciousness gets to be known as that ocean. The individual gets to know himself or herself as that whole ocean. What does that feel like? It don't feel bad. It feels good. And there's only one state of consciousness, one state of self-realization, but there's many permeations of that state, many layers of clarity of that state. The first layer is this self-awareness. If I use words like it's infinite and eternal, you don't necessarily feel that. You don't necessarily feel this silence or stillness that is the essential nature of yourself is big or small. It's like if you're outside and you look at the sky, there's nothing there, it's cloudless, it's big, huge blue dome. There's no scale to it. If you see something flying up there, like a little bird, maybe it's just a sparrow. Whoa, suddenly that sky looks enormous in relation to that point value. It's pure consciousness like that. As soon as you see something in it, you get to start understanding what that pure consciousness, what that realization of the self is all about. And the ocean doesn't rise as one wave. Your consciousness isn't just one wave. It's an infinity of waves. And maybe this infinity of waves at first is simply seen with the eyes, the inner eyes, let's call it for now. Maybe it sparkles. Maybe it shimmers. Everybody will have their own experience. Maybe you can hear it. Maybe you can feel it. For me, these glimmers and these sights and these sounds, they started a long, long time ago, and they evolved and grew into more clarity. And what do I mean by that? I started seeing what these waves actually were, other than it was obvious they were part of the ocean. They weren't separate from anything. And it didn't take that long to begin to experience that what I was seeing with my eyes, what I was hearing with my ears, outside, so-called outside, wasn't really outside of me. And what does that mean? Well, it means that that a state of consciousness developed that I felt connected to my immediate environment. I felt friendly to it. It almost looked as if I was looking at myself when I'm looking outside, as it were. Another interesting analogy is here I'm sitting in this room, right? This room is empty. The space of the room is empty. There's nothing there. Well, there really is. There's oxygen, air, and all kinds of stuff. But it looks like nothing there. But there's a wall over there, and there's a ceiling there, and there's a floor there. They define this space. They make this space useful. It protects me from the environment. Gives me a home. It isn't just the space that gives me a home. It's all the aspects of the home that define the home, the wall, the pictures, the computer, everything. Everything that I'm seeing in my home defines my home, gives me a home. Pure consciousness is like that. You see the space first, and then you see the, as if the defining values of that space. And what are those defining values of the space? They're what makes it a living reality. Living reality. You don't want something that you don't live. You want something that you can have. You want to taste and touch it. You want it to be you, your stuff, not somebody else's stuff, your stuff. So consciousness is like that. These fluctuations, these waves of consciousness that I'm talking about, they're not separate from you. They're what defines you. They're what defines this pure consciousness. So So I hope everybody's thinking of some questions to ask me at some point, because we're going to open it up for some questions. And, I'll attempt to answer any question as long as I'm capable and the question is nice. So I think what I'll spend a little bit of time on developing not just the self-awareness. That's the first stage. That's what everybody gets at first. That's what I got. Everybody gets. You get self-awareness. As soon as you get self-awareness, you look at it, it starts moving. Then you start seeing the ocean and its waves. What are these waves? What are they? These waves of consciousness are they're what connects you with everything. They're what connects you with your immediate environment, and yes, they're what connects you with your distant environment too, on a feeling level. I don't feel like I'm a localized being only. I feel like I'm describing myself as connected to, or as this immediate environment I'm in, our society that we live in, the world that we live in, and yes, even the stars and the galaxies and the whole universe. And I feel just as much that they're a part of me as I am part of them. Now, on a logical level, that's of course true. Well, you got the sun in the sky, this big, huge globe of light up there, the sun, but we wouldn't be alive without the rays of the sun. We wouldn't be alive without the earth, and that's an element of nature too. We wouldn't be alive without water. All these different elements of nature, fire, air, water, earth, and so forth, they make up our bodies.
Harri,
Yeah,
I have a question
yeah,
from Muhammad.
all right.
Is it important to drop all concepts, beliefs, and abstract ideas to realize the self or to realize God?
That's a great question. I know you'd give me a tough one. No, absolutely not. Those concepts, those ideas, they will become the contact of a realized mind and heart. You will get the answers to them from within yourself, and they're not going to disappear, but they'll grow into bigger questions and bigger answers. And in a sense, I would say that's a wonderful question, in the sense that there are many, many limitations to why. You could ask yourself, why don't people wake up? Why aren't they realized? One of the reasons is you have preconceived ideas. You have these things that you think will stand in your way. There's not a single thing on earth that could stand in your way, because like I was saying earlier, the growth of consciousness is the consciousness bigger and bigger. It gets into a bigger basket. It begins to contain everything, and things that you thought limited you actually are the springboards for more understanding, more happiness, more expansion. What was the other part of the question? Concepts?
Beliefs, all concepts, beliefs, and abstract ideas to realize the self or to realize God.
So abstract ideas, a seeker has to have all these things. Seeker wants to pursue abstract idea, wants to pursue concepts, wants to pursue until they're no longer concepts, but they become the actual experience of the knower, of that part of yourself that has all the answers, or at least feels like it has all the answers. And God, who's going to get that right? Who's going to get that right? I mean, that's a big deal. I've certainly been a seeker after God my whole life. You don't have to believe God exists. You don't have to believe he does exist. Both of them will take you to the same source. And if as your consciousness grows, you begin to say, did I just get a glimpse of God or goddess? You have to decide, that was wonderful. I want more of that. I want more of that. I want more of this goddess. I want more of this God. And are those also, is God and goddess also a wave of my own consciousness, or am I a wave of God's consciousness? You have to get into that yourself and figure it out. Or you have to ask somebody who might have had that experience, who's willing to talk about it. And maybe there aren't that many people who will talk about it.
So Harry?
Yeah?
Another question. Mark has raised his hand. Mark, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Sure. I was going to say that everything that you say seems, I experience. It seems like there's an experiential sense of whatever comes out of your mouth, that it's like a river of knowledge that it ends any sense of separation. It's almost like there's a silence in you, and then speaking and things comes out of this bottomless well of knowing. And I find that it's an effortless process, and that what you're communicating is transmitted almost by like osmosis, that I'm inside of you, like there's no separation. That there's the obvious, like you're physically there and I'm here, but in another much more subtle level of things, it really gives the experiential sense of no divide between us.
That's beautiful. You answered all your own questions. I love that. I absolutely love that. I don't even have to say anything. Come on, man. That's terrific.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, so much of this stuff is so much stuff in the world of spirituality and things is people echoing, what they heard from this teacher or that teacher. This one said this and that. But once the experience becomes, your own, and saying like everything Harry's talking about, you get like an experiential, it becomes your own. I mean, and it's no longer you're talking theories that grow dreary. You're not sitting there and just echoing what your teacher or somebody said, or what the Buddha said or something.
That's a very nice point. I'm not smart enough, and I was never smart enough to describe something I'm not experiencing. I'm just not. And ultimately, neither is anybody else. When it comes to consciousness, if you're experiencing it, you can describe it. If you're not, you can't. And either, you know, and to for it to be a believable experience, you have to convey the actual experience as much as words can do that, you know, and people can tell, everybody can tell, you can tell, I can tell, you know, if somebody has, it's no great shakes, you know, to be normal, you know, self-realization is a normal state. It's not a special state. In fact, you know, there are people who have really flashy experiences. They're seeing devas and gods and this and that and spirits and whatever, whatever. And that's great. That's an indication that, you know, they have a refined nervous system and all that. But these kind of people are often stuck there. And it's not that you can't have these experiences or will not have or will have these experiences when you get realized. It's just that people who have really flashy experiences think that their experiences will get 10 times flashier when they actually wake up. What actually happens is exactly what I said. These flashy experiences will get tied together into a bigger basket of knowingness. Okay. In the sense that, and the next time I talk, I'll describe in more detail my own stages that I went through. But I'm not going to do it this time because we're going to run out of time. But what happens is that all your states of consciousness, whether they're flashy or not flashy, whether they're really simple experience, get known as your own experience. Now, that sounds so simple, it's not funny. But the difference is that you now, when you wake up, you know that you're awake all the time. You're the experiencer. And you're the I of the experience. And I don't mean physical I mean the I, the knower of the experience. There's this knowingness to it. This separation disappears. It doesn't disappear in the sense that you no longer can see the room or you're no longer in specific spaces. It disappears on the feeling level, on the knowingness level. And it even disappears on the inner sight and the inner hearing level. So I like the way that you were talking about, you know, the separation between people disappears. Not only does the separation between people, but the separation between everything that your eyes see, everything that your ears hear, and the space you're moving in feels like your own space. You're walking down the street, your own space. It's a great experience. That's why we want it. That's why throughout history, people want to wake up. They want to get realized. It's always the same. We want more. We all realize things seen the way they are by most of us, by most people, we're separate. We don't like that. Things are always changing. Get the rug pulled out from under us. We want, if the rug is pulled out from under us, it doesn't affect our cosmic status, right? That's what we want.
So another question from Ben. Ben is asking, can you speak to the possibility of immortality on the level of the material body? It's a big subject.
That could be a whole session. But yes, I've certainly gone in that direction myself. I've gone in that direction, thinking about that and getting it and having visions or something of that kind of thing. But for now, this is my feeling. This is my experience. This pure consciousness that we have, that everybody has, is being had inside a body too. The body is also part of the experience of this immortality, this eternal value. The senses eventually will see pure consciousness, all the senses. These senses, you will eventually travel with these senses to the stars and to God and the goddess and so forth and so on.
So,
Maybe I'll describe that in more detail next time.
okay. So I think we can take one more question. And here's probably a great one to end on. It says, and I can't see who it's from now. Oh, Naomi and Gary. Qualities of consciousness. Could this also include aspects like movement, structure, organization, form, etc.?
That's a great question, but all these questions require an entire session. Doesn't anybody have a simple question like, my elbow hurts, is that going to go away? Okay. Read that one to me again, Kathy.
Qualities of consciousness.
Okay.
Could this also include aspects like movement, structure, organization, form, etc.?
That's very abstract, but first of all, consciousness, that's what I was trying to say, but I didn't develop it. And here again, I'll develop it in the future. But what I see when I look, and this started many, long time ago, and I started seeing structure in consciousness. And when I say it, I see sights or glimmer or this thing. It wasn't random. It was specific. And over time, this specificity became more obvious to me. I started seeing my environment as a specific aspect of myself. I started seeing my distant environments as a specific aspect, like almost like a geography, but it was the 3D geography. And I started seeing my body, my physiology. Okay, I started seeing my physiology. I don't know how much you want to go there, but let's say the whole universe is specific. The stars in the sky, there's one star there and there's one star there, and they seem to stay in those places. There's a structure holding that there. Guess who that structure is? You are. And eventually you will discover that structure as the foundation of the universe. Okay?
Good. Show them your new book cover, Harri.
Oh yeah. So I've got two books. My first book was this one, and all these things I'm talking about there are developed to the nth degree in there. That's fine. I don't make a lot of money if you happen to buy this. I'm not going to get rich selling books, I'll tell you that. Almost nobody does. And then I made a new book, and then I develop much of the stuff that I talked about in this book. And I go into all these structural, universal issues, and there's simple stuff and everything else. And this is not printed yet, but that other one is. The Landscape of Enlightenment is on Amazon. This one's coming up in the next few months. And what else can I say?